guys, this is Kerapeti. I'm back again today with another video, another episode. Today I'll be speaking about learnerships and internships. Um, this is another interesting topic for me because I've actually undertook both a learnership and internship, um, respectively. So when I started working, so learnerships or learnership was my entry point into the working space or into employment, into the workforce, right? So what learnerships are actually mainly meant for people that have just completed grade 12 or completed grade 12 a year or two ago, right? And then internships are mainly meant for graduates, university graduates, college graduates, that would like to go through that path or sometimes are struggling to find full-time employment, right? And then both a learnership and internship usually have what we call a stipend. Stipends vary. Some stipends are larger than others. Yeah. So actually, I remember when I was on a learnership. When I was on a learnership, by virtue of being placed at the company that was facilitating these learnership programs and these internship programs that I worked on. So this was a learning and development space, right? So I remember when I had just started working there, I was looking at because I did a lot of admin. I came across contacts, and I remember seeing this contact. Was it a learnership contact? Yeah, I think it was a learnership contact or an internship contact, and the stipend was huge. Yo, stipend was huge, like huge, like someone's per annum huge. That's how huge it was. So yeah, internships are made for graduates, and so mainly made for graduates, and people that have a bit of working experience in a particular field or in a particular space. For example, sometimes you find someone has worked in the HR space, but then they've only worked for a year or two, and they're out of a job, and they wanna gain employment at another business, or while they're on that contract, they've identified another opportunity, or they're being identified for an opportunity elsewhere. But then that opportunity might be in a different industry, and because of their limited experience in this particular subject matter, some companies would then put you on an internship contract as instead of a full time contract, they give you an internship contract. So just for you to acclimatize and to get accustomed to that particular industry. So that's what a learnership is and what an internship is. And I know there are different definitions for what an internship is and how they function, right? And we also do have something that is called in-service training and also graduate programs. But graduate programs and internships, those terms are sometimes used interchangeably. Sometimes they are something totally different, but sometimes they're used interchangeably. So internships also do have a theoretical part, but then the theoretical part of an internship usually runs concurrently with you gaining your experiential knowledge or getting your experiential training, as opposed to a learnership where you first go through your theoretical training and then later on your practical training. So when I did the learnership, so I did the theoretical part first. Went through an interview, was successful at the interview, and then started working at the company that I just alluded to. So because I was on a learnership, and this was my first job ever. I didn't know much about the space, so I was then so you on both a learnership and internship, you're allocated a mentor. So my mentor would then give me a plan to say this is what you're going to be focusing on, and this is what you're going to be focusing on this week, or this is what you're going to be focusing on for the next 2 weeks or for the next month, whatever the case may have been at the time. So I did a lot of admin. My responsibilities were limited to admin and calling. So I'd call people that were on different programs for different reasons, and I sorted out documentation. So I did a lot of admin, and as time went on, my responsibilities grew by virtue of me also understanding the operations of the business, how the business operates, and how the business functions, who's who in the business, who does what. Um, Having worked with various other teams, right? So my responsibilities grew, and I got entrusted with doing a lot more in the business. But honestly speaking, learnerships can be very tedious, and a lot of the time because people that undertake or give people that are given an opportunity or given an opportunity to undertake a learnership and an internship, right, are people that are first time employees or people that have never worked before. So sometimes people don't really give it their best shot, or not because they don't give it their best shot, but then they don't know what is expected of them, you know, so much or in great detail, or how serious this is, you know, because it's a total mind shift, whether you just came out of high school, or you just came out of varsity, you know. You're in a workspace, you're in a working environment where sometimes it's very fast paced, you know. Sometimes there isn't much time to explain things or to give you direction or on how to communicate. Speaking about communication, a couple of weeks ago, I was actually looking at the emails that I used to send out when I had just started working on the learnership, because for the first week or two, I used to use my own Gmail account. So I'd send emails to some of the people in the team before I was given my own email address with the company's domain and stuff. When I saw that email, it was almost like I was typing an SMS or WhatsApp message or a message on Instagram. You know, that's how much I didn't know the etiquette that was expected of me, you know. And some of these things you do get training on them, sometimes in high school or wherever, you know. But then it just didn't click to me, you know, or it just didn't. I just didn't immediately get into the mojo or into how into business communication, into using business language, into using email etiquette, you know. And I was looking at that, you know, and sometimes that's just one example. I'm just trying to show you how much of a mind shift it is, or how much sometimes you need someone to guide you and to show you what is expected of you, you know. And like I was saying, so because this is usually your first job, or the first time you're in an office space, you don't really know how things work here, you know. And sometimes, and a lot of the time, you need someone to show you in that direction. And thank goodness that is why a lot of companies allocate you a mentor who teaches you, who shows you how to do this, how to communicate, how to use how to use business language where everywhere it's appropriate. So sometimes we become lax in during these programs, and this is why sometimes you see how people don't maximize on these opportunities because they don't know what is expected of them, or because it's a total mind shift, that this is what you need to do here. This is what is expected of you, and this is how you're going to function, and because of that, that's how people they lose out on these opportunities, or lose out on maximizing on these opportunities. So what I'd like to advise when it comes to this is that do as much research as possible, and don't always when you're in a learnership. Sometimes the environment that you're in, or the business space that you're in, can become so busy that people can just pass you by because they just fear that a lot of the time it's just a fear of losing out on time to say, I'm going to have to show this person step by step, and this is where you then become very proactive. Whenever things are not brought to you, to say, hey, can I help with such and such? Can I shadow you? Can I learn more about what is it that you're doing? And by doing that in a business in a business environment, you're becoming a useful someone that is useful, and someone that does that is not being spoon fed, or that is a wheelbarrow that is constantly pushed around. So you become proactive, and it shows that you're interested. It shows initiative. It shows that you actually want to be here, and you actually do want to grow. So like I said, my responsibilities then started growing in the business. The business grew. There was a lot more programs that the business was working on, and fortunately, I also had a good mentor who took me along. Who showed me around, who showed me the ropes, who made sure that I understand what the business does. And then channeled my path into a different into a certain into a particular direction. So because of that, I then started working in a particular department, and then in that department, I started growing more. I undertook a lot more responsibilities, and then I later on became a full-time employee in the business. And then what that means then is that I'm no longer that kid. I'm no longer a kid that was just fresh out of high school, or fresh out of a different space. So I then became a full-time employee, and then I then grew in that space. And then later on, like I said, I then got an opportunity in a different at a different company. In that company, I was then put on an internship program. On that internship program, I learned more about the industry that I was now working in, which was a totally different space from where I came from. So excuse me. So in that space, I was again an intern. I had to then become that person that takes initiative again, the person that asks questions, the person the person that becomes inquisitive. And naturally so, I had just come from I had just come from a space where I was a full-time employee. I wasn't a learnership. I was part of the team. I was a member of the team, a full-on member of the team. And then there was an immediate switch where I had to become someone that takes initiative, someone that makes myself relevant in the business, and that had to do, I had to fix my mind to making it work, to think and to constantly reminding myself that you're not where you used to be. This is not your previous employer where you were a full-time employee. Here you're here to learn. You're given an opportunity to learn, and you know what I used to say, because I worked a lot when I became a full time member of the team at my at the pre where I started first as a learner in the learning and development space. I did a lot of excuse me. I worked a lot on I did a lot of inductions. During those inductions, because I had just come from a learnership, I used to advise people that sometimes when you're on a learnership, you have to bend over backwards. And what I mean about that, I'm not saying you need to sell your soul and you need to go against your morals and your values, but then sometimes you're going to have to make the coffee. Sometimes you're going to have to go and work at the reception. But then what you're doing what you're doing with that is that you're making yourself relevant. You're displaying in the environment that in the space that you want to be there, and you want to be a part of the team. And I'm not saying make coffee for someone that's almost your peer. If your manager asks you to make coffee for them, make the coffee. You're being sometimes you're being tested on your servanthood, on whether you're willing to help wherever you're everywhere where you're asked to help. So that's what I used to say, that you need to you need to bend over backwards. Like I said, you don't need to go against your morals and your values, but then you're gonna have to go the extra mile. That's what I meant, and that's what I mean right now. That you need to go the extra mile. You need to do some of the things that you never that you'd be asked to do. And as I grew and as my responsibilities grew, both when I was a learner and when I was a full-time employee, is that sometimes you're gonna have to leave the office late, later than usual, and I know that sometimes public transport can be a bit of a challenge, but then you're gonna have to take the risk, especially if that usually depends on your appetite for an opportunity. It depends on your appetite to want to grow, to want to learn more, and all of that is very, I promise you, those are things that are very attractive in a working environment. And I know sometimes there's energy in an office whereby, excuse me, like we say kukasi, that upayaskele, but then you're gonna have to do it at some point. You're gonna have to leave early, and the following day still be one of the first people to get to the office, because of your appetite to make it, because of your appetite to want to grow in the business, and this was always my stance, both when I was on a learnership and I was on an internship, and that then later on became my stance even when I was a full-time employee, after the internship, because after the internship I was then given an opportunity to given a full-time contract. I worked on a full-time contract, and when the company, at my first job ever, where I was a learner, the environment was in such a way that the age group, the age people that I worked with, we were almost of a similar age group, and also the age gaps rather in our business unit were not that great, so we had a lot of shared moments in our team, and that included during lunch. We sat together in lunch. We had a very I was actually sharing with my friend the other day that we had a very healthy environment. It wasn't like it wasn't a very toxic environment. Actually, it was not. I can almost say it was not toxic at all. So when it was lunchtime, everyone stood up. We went to our eating area. We sat together and we shared lunch, and we just enjoyed that time. And there was the company culture. Even sometimes even the managers in the business would tag along, and we would sit and we'd enjoy lunch together. So me having changed environments or companies, I went to this company where I was an intern. I remember the first week I was there. This one day I went out for lunch. So I was sitting, I was just having lunch, and I got a call, and I realized that it was the office. Picked up the call, and it was someone that I worked in, one of my team members. Someone I worked in the same team with. They called me and they're like, "Hey, dude, where are you?" And I was like, "I'm having lunch." And they said, "You're having lunch?" "No, dude, we don't have lunch here." And I was like, what do you mean?" And she said, "No, you eat at your desk here." Okay. Finished up my lunch, went back, and that was the last day I went out for lunch when I was working for that company. I if I did go out for lunch, it was very seldom. It wasn't like a habit that I go out for lunch. I enjoyed I ate while I was at my desk working. But then I had to readjust or recalibrate my mind to say I'm not where I used to be, and that does not mean I'm that just meant that the environment I was in at that time was different, and I had to adjust and I had to make it work, because it was a more fast-paced environment. It was more fast-paced. It was more intense, more than the previous one. So I adjusted. I didn't have a problem with that. I just didn't know offhand when I got there. I needed someone to tell me, to say, "Dude, here, this is how we do things." And no one. It was not a rule that you don't go out for lunch, and if you do go out for lunch, um it's a sin. No, it was not a sin, but then it was just the nature of the environment. It was fast paced and it was very intense. So if you did go out for lunch, um I'm sorry to say, but then it would be at your detriment, because sometimes you'd fall back with your work, and the choice was yours. But then I had to readjust, and it was a very hard working environment. And I remember looking at the business unit managers in that space, and I realized how diligent that the manager was, and how hard working they were. Their work ethic was just on another level. And as an intern, that marked me. It marked me, and I wanted to work just as much as they did, because I used to ask myself, okay, as an intern, um, how did that person get there? That means I need to apply myself just as much as they're applying themselves. I needed to apply the principles that they were applying. And it was besides a lot of other things, and motivation and stuff. But it was just motivating to see someone working at that level, and I admired that person's work ethic. And as an intern, it marked me, and I never ever felt that I was being exploited, or I was being slaved around in the business. I just made a conscious decision that, you know what, this is how I'm going to be. I'm going to acclimatize myself. I'm in this workspace, and this is how things are functioning here, and I'll as as they say that when you're with the Jews, do what the Jews do. When you're with the Romans, do it as the Romans do. That's what I did. That's actually an extract from the Bible, a scripture in the Bible. So I thought about that, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to apply that. And that was the nature of the environment, and everyone was happy. Well, the people I worked with, my immediate team was happy in working like that, and I joined them. And I later on became a member of the team. I was given a full time um, contract, and having worked in the talent acquisition space, and having worked with graduates and learners, a lot of the time people miss opportunities because they don't want to go the extra mile, because people don't want to apply themselves just like everyone else is doing. People want to take the extended lunch. People want to exercise each and every right that they have, without thinking that you're there to learn more than anything. Robert Kiyosaki says, when you're young, you work to learn and not only to earn. And in as much as money is very important, but then you're learning. What you learn will always stay with you, and your salary and the money is something that will always come and go. But then your experience is not something that can go away, or something that can or something that someone can take away from you. So sometimes we miss out on opportunities because we don't want to go the extra mile. We don't want to take initiative. We don't want to learn. We don't want someone to take our hand and show us things and show us the ropes. And that's very unfortunate, because in the climate that we're in, especially in South Africa, with our unemployment rate, is that the contributing factor is that one of the main contributing factors is that managers or business leaders are very skeptical in taking risks with people, especially people that have never worked, because they're not always sure that those people will deliver, especially at client level. I used to see this a lot working on these on these learnership programs and internship programs, because people are not able to express themselves, and people are not able to provide the confidence that whenever you give it an opportunity, they'll go the extra mile, and that is what matters the most. And what I've realized is that sometimes people with the most brilliant of minds, or best the best qualifications, don't get the opportunities because they want their qualifications or their intellect to do the work for them, without them applying themselves, So that's something that is very unfortunate in our workforce right now, is that we don't want to apply ourselves as much as we ought to. Like I was saying, if a business unit manager is able to come in first and leave almost last, what exempts you as someone that has to be entrusted with an opportunity from applying yourself, from just taking for sometimes even if you do go out for your lunch, going back to that point, sometimes even if you do go out your lunch, you don't always have to take the entire 1 hour or hour and a half. You can just take 30 minutes of that just to enjoy your lunch, or just to go out for some fresh air, or a leg stretch, or whatever the case may be. That will I promise, I've seen this so much in the workspace that that always works out in your favor, because you're a reliable source at work, and sometimes it does. Sometimes you need your full 1 hour, Like I said, it's not a sin. you take it, and you come back and and you start working and you go back to your work. So I'd just like to encourage you guys. Maybe you're on a learnership, or you're on an internship, or you or one day you will be on a learnership or an internship. Just apply yourself as best as possible. Always go the extra mile. Always be diligent. Always be a reliable point or focal point in your team. For as long as you're reliable, you become a focal point in your team. Because the more reliable you are, the more you grow in your craft, the more you grow in whatever it is that you're doing. The more you're given responsibilities, and the more responsibilities you have, the greater your chances of growing in the business. So I just like to encourage you that work as hard as possible. Bend over backwards, especially if you're young. Obviously don't become a walkover. Obviously don't become someone that everyone can just pull and push around. Don't become a pushover. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is become someone that the business and your team can rely on. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Till the next video, please like, please share with people that you think this might be interesting too. And yeah, till next time, Minitanda 99. Bye guys.